So here we are.
We're talking about mic.
That's right. Just the mic distance.
Just to be clear.
In one of 4 spaces in your house where you work out, is that right?
This is one of them. Yeah, this is the indoor gym. It's been pretty hot lately. It's been in the 90s and whatnot. So, we spend more time in here. We do a lot of cardiovascular stuff in here, but I don't know if you can see with the cameras, there's a pegboard and the I-beam, and that's a monster. There's a big old bunch of dumbbells over there and stuff. So, and I have this tonal, which is a really fun piece of equipment that I just got that I'm really having some fun with. And we store the plyo boxes in, for example, this afternoon after you guys leave, we'll go from the bike to the VersaClimber to the treadmill. We'll hit that heavy bag. We'll go to the rower, the skier, and then there's a jump rope that we'll do over there. And it's just 5 minutes each, and we do go for about an hour, and there's 4 of us, 4 today anyway, just to break a sweat. I used to get on the VersaClimber and treadmill for an hour, like, bang.
That's brutal.
Not so interested in that anymore. But the variety, that way I'm not, variety's great, heart rate's still up. And that's what this room is for. And then there's 3 other spaces. There's one where we have a high bar and a set of rings and parallel bar in a little section. We do sort of gymnastic type things over there. And then down behind the house, there's 2 areas. One's a ninja course, a covered ninja course, which, if you know what ninja is, you just, it's all going from, obstacle to obstacle with your hands, with rings and craziness, And then there's another area where there's a pegboard, a pull-up bar, and a big high beam, 17-foot beam, and a 17-foot rope to the beam. And that's kind of our Sunday 4-hour ninja thing.
It sounds like a damn grind.
It is, but it's fun. It's fun, and there's a little bit of competitiveness between me and the boys. And I'm the oldest guy there, man. So it's nice that if I can kind of beat guys half my age once in a while.
And you're how old now?
I'll be 61 in a couple of weeks.
Damn, you look good, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I avoid the sun. I don't drink alcohol. It's mostly vegetables, hydration, low stress, which is hard for me because I'm genetically built to be really stressed out. Just following the rules and being consistent with it.
Very good. Well, I want to get some backstory on you. What was life like growing up? When did you really start to find fitness as a niche and something that you were interested in?
I wasn't an athletic kid. I was a two left feet kind of kid, and I wanted to be an athlete. I love tennis. I love golf. I love skiing. I love, pick up basketball. I was on the football team in high school, but I was really more of a tackling dummy during the week than a player. I didn't really play much. We had a phenomenal team. We had great athletes. I think if I was in any other town, I might have played more, but we just had such a great team that
You grew up here?
I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, my father was in the military early on. I was an Army brat, so we moved 6 times before 5th grade. We moved from Rhode Island to Kentucky, Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was tank school for my dad, and then to Schofield Barracks in Hawaii, and then Rowayton, Connecticut, and then Cumberland, Rhode Island, Syracuse, New York, and then finally in Trumbull, Connecticut. And I was there from 5th grade till 12th grade. And that's really where I say I'm from. I say I'm from Trumbull, but I was born in Westerly, Rhode Island, so I have kind of 2 hometowns. But the entire time, I didn't have an athletic bone in my body really, and I had a speech impediment called cluttering, which was a real pain in the butt.
I haven't heard of cluttering. How does that?
Cluttering is really somebody who, I think it's based in insecurity. I should probably look more into it, but it's just the inability to be able to slow down and say what you want to say. And the words have a tendency to sort of pile up on top of each other. And it's kind of like fast talking.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And when you're talking that fast, there's an occasional stutter or stammer along the way, which made it really hard for me to communicate, obviously. I mean, I was afraid to just open up my mouth and say anything to anybody. And then of course, typically, because kids are kids, I became a target.
Yeah.
And beat up at the bus stop, shoved in the locker, lunch money stolen, just kind of, beat up and pushed around for no reason. Because I was a small kid and I was an insecure kid and I was a shy kid and I had the stuttering thing. And because I moved so much, I didn't really grow up with the same set of kids my whole life. I had in one town, I think it was Cumberland, Rhode Island, we lived there 9 months. I mean, we didn't even live there an entire year. So it was always having to, readapt to new towns and new schools and new friends and stuff. But so even though I was on the football team in high school, I wouldn't say I was very fit. I didn't know how to train. I didn't know how to, I didn't know the regimen of training of chest and back and shoulders and arms and doing cardio and yoga and all the things that I know now. I mean, it didn't exist. And the only place that you would find a gym was on the college campus or at your high school. They weren't on every corner like they are out here in California. Then I moved out here and, I discovered World Gym and Gold's Gym. And I discovered, a lot of aerobics gyms, which was pretty much all women, and yoga classes, which was all women. And I went, well, hey, can dudes go in there? And yeah, well, that's where I'm going, Because I was a young man and I wanted to meet a gal, and I met some. I don't think I dated too many. It turns out you needed an income and you needed a personality, and I was working on those two things too. So.
Still a work in progress.
Yeah, I was a work in progress for sure, man. And so, yeah, those were the early days, and that was all back in 1980 when I came across the continent with $400. I mean, $400. I couldn't even get to, I couldn't even get to Pennsylvania with $400 for gas money these days. But it was a wild ride, and it was, it's changed my life. I mean, getting that phone call from my buddy from high school, he said, "What are you going to do for the summer?" This is, the summer of 1980, and I was still 6 credits short at the University of Rhode Island, and I was going to go to Boston and wait tables. That was my big plan. But, you want to go to California for the summer? Yes. I mean, it was literally no hesitation. I got in the car, $400, ran out of money in Boulder, Colorado, out. Right? So I was a trained pantomime, long story. Because I wanted to be a performer, but because I had the speech thing, still not so much in college. I had kind of conquered that to some degree. But I just thought pantomime was a fun way. And I was super animated, and I did a lot of really kind of, NC-17 mime. I'll put it at that,
Okay.
Some really irreverent stuff, just with my hands, whatever I was doing, And I pulled out my hat, my mime makeup, and I made $125 in a day and a half in Boulder. And that got me back to California. And it's been a ride ever since.
That's incredible. That's definitely not what I was expecting.
Not that's your atypical story.
Yeah.
I don't know which camera to, Kyle's got like 18 cameras here. Is that my A camera?
You got your camera
okay.
over there.
Hello. I just fell in love.
You can focus right here, though.
Good to see you. Nice to see you, Matt.
I love it. So you get here, and your idea is you're going to spend a summer here, but obviously that all changes. Did you stay here that entire time from then on?
I did, man. I did, and there was always my parents like, you got to come home and you got to finish those credits and you got to graduate school and you got to grow up and you got to have a regular, normal life. But, and at that time I was a carpenter, I was a painter, I was a plumber, I was a handyman. I was doing mime at the Hermosa Pier or Huntington Pier or in Westwood. Whatever it took, at times when I ran out of money, and I had asked my parents for money, I go, I need $87.37 so I can buy a belt sander so I can build some furniture to sell at the Pier 1, whatever. And they would reluctantly write me these checks. But after a while, they just said, we're done writing checks. Get your butt in a car and come home, or we'll pay for the flight and send you home. But I refused. I would bear down. And I'd, in the middle of summer or whatever it was when I was out of bread, and I would put on that, my little the black pants, the black vest, the white shirt, the top hat, the mime makeup. And I'd go down to either Westwood or Santa Monica Pier when I was here in LA. And I would put that hat down and I'd look down at that hat and go, I think that looks like $25. I'm done. And then I'd go to the corner liquor store where I lived. I lived at 220 Bay Street in Santa Monica, not far from the beach. And I'd go in there and I'd buy yogurt and Cheerios. And I'd live down on breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yogurt and Cheerios. But I'm 22, 23, and that was my life. And it seemed normal. And I was in California, and, and I'd go to bars and I'd go to the happy hour and that's how I ate. I'd buy one beer and I'd go to the happy hour, and there was always a buffet, and that's how I ate my meals. And I would stick shrimp in my pocket or whatever. You know what I mean?
Line the belt.
We're in Cali, man. We're having fun. Who cares? We're broke. You know what I mean? And that whole summer, I was living on the floor of my buddy's living room, on the floor in a sleeping bag. And then I entered a talent show down in OC, down in Orange County, and the first prize was $500. $500. I came across the country with 400. Had to do mime to get an extra 25 to get there, 125 to get there. And I won. I won the talent show because I would crank up old Beatles music and like some acid jazz and some ELO, just cranked up the music, and I'd get up there and do my crazy mime stuff. And I won $500. And at the bar that night, I was talking to the guy who won second place. His prize was $250. And he was some big real estate mogul who just did it for kicks. And he heard my sob story and he gave me his prize money.
Damn. That's
He gave me his prize money.
Bonus.
So all of a sudden I had $750. So I said, Tony, Santa Monica's the place you ought to be. So I loaded up the car and I moved there. And I was able to put down a first month's deposit and a first month's rent with me and 2 other buddies in a 2-bedroom apartment in Hermosa Beach. 0 furniture, 0. No beds, no tables, no chairs, no dining room, no silverware, no cups, no saucers, no plates. So we would just go to garage sales and we would rummage through alleys. My bed that I slept on for the first 9 months of California was a box spring that I found in an alley.
Damn.
Yeah, man. And the sheets, we would go to TJ Maxx or something and get the sheets. Those were the days, man. It was just hand to mouth, literally surviving. And then of course that summer came and went, and there was a fall, and there was a winter, and it was the following year, and all my family was like, come home. And I just never did. I was on a vacation, and I kind of still am.
You're doing well in this vacation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, there was some serendipity and some kismet and whatever that happened, when I started going to these gyms, and I got this cool job working over at 20th Century Fox for a woman by the name of Julia Phillips. Her and her partner at that time, this guy Harlan Goodman, were over at Fox trying to make movies. I mean, her claim to fame with her husband at that time was they just did 3 movies in a row. Some I'm sure some folks have heard of. The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Richard Dreyfuss. And then Taxi Driver with De Niro. Boom, boom, boom. So she had created sort of a name for herself. And I just happened to, a friend of mine had a job as their runner, as their PA, a production assistant. And he got another job as a writer for Dolly Parton, because we were in Hollywood, and that's the kind of stuff that happens. You know what I mean? Oh, I was working for Julia Phillips, who made all these movies, but now I have a job writing for Dolly Parton. You know what I mean? Oh, there's an opening. What are you going to do? Okay, I don't have to be a mime at the pier anymore. And, at this time, I'm working out and taking care of myself. And I was starting to work for them. And I'm driving all over town, from Culver City to L.A. to North Hollywood to the lot and everything else, delivering scripts and putting in light bulbs and making coffee and feeding the cats. I mean, whatever a PA's job was. And then my boss, one of the bosses, Harlan, and I was getting kind of yoked. I was a skinny, scrawny kid when he met me, and I had a little bit of a pudge, because I wasn't working out at all. I was in survival mode, right? Purely. Yeah. And he noticed that I was changing because I was going to World Gym and I was just eyeballing Schwarzenegger and Ferrigno. Like, what are they doing? Oh my God, 40 sets of chest. Okay, screw it. Like, every possible angle, flies, incline, decline, flat, dumbbell, strip sets, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, biceps for like a day and a half. All right. You know what I mean? That's how I was training. And I got Harlan in great shape. I was training now in his old employee in my buddy Jonathan's garage. Now that he was working for Dolly, he was making big bucks, so he converted his garage to a gym. And I got him in great shape. And then, shortly after that, he was walking down the hall of this management company called East End Management on Sunset Boulevard. And Harlan was looking all fit, about 40 pounds down. And the other way was Tom Petty. Tom Petty looked at Harlan. He said, "Hey, Harlan, oh my God, what happened to you? You look fantastic." Because Harlan's from Gainesville, Florida. This is the best I can do. I'm sorry. And he says, "I'm fat, and my wife is fat, and I got to get in shape for my tour in 4 months." So literally the next day, Tom Petty calls my house, and my roommate picks up, and the phone rings. "Hi, it's Tom Petty. I'm looking for Tony Horton." My roommate goes, he looks at me. I was on the couch watching football or something. "Dude, some guy, I think it's Perpich downstairs, says it's Tom Petty." And I'm like, "Dude, hang up the phone. It's not Tom Petty." Click. So the phone rings. "Hi, it's Tom Petty. I think we got disconnected." And Bob goes, "Dude, I think it's Tom Petty, bro." "Hello? It's Tom Petty. Harlan Goodman told me to call you." And so I went to Tom's house. He lived in Woodland Hills, this incredible, amazing pad, all gold and platinum records on the wall. He was smoking a cigarette. I probably shouldn't smoke the cigarettes, but. And anyway, I had 4 months with a guy, and he was grossly out of shape. You know what I mean? I had a life cycle. I had to put the thing on zero tension so he could do it, which was trippy. And I handed him some 12-pound dumbbells for bench press, and his arms went, "Brr, whoa." I thought, oh my God, I'm going to kill Tom Petty. But 4 months later, he was benching 45 sets of 12, level 6 on that life cycle. I bought him a heavy bag, and he was beating the snot out of that heavy bag. I mean, it was impressive. He was a quick study.
Yeah.
He understood how important it was. He understood how out of shape he was. And then after that, all of a sudden I had a career keeping rock and rollers alive. I mean, I had Billy Idol after that and Bruce Springsteen. And
Oh, shit.
yeah, man.
That is so
Right,
rad.
mate. Right, hell, mate. What did you do to Tom Petty, man? He looks fantastic. Can you come to my house and get me in shape? And then he swore a lot too, but he was Billy Idol. So Billy lived up on up off of Mulholland. I can't say exactly where. I think he still lives there. But yeah, I saw Billy every day, Monday through Friday for 5 years. And I got him jacked. I mean, almost to the point where people were like, dude, you're looking too much like Springsteen. Remember when Springsteen was looking really pretty buff? And then Patty Scialfa, and I started training Patty Scialfa, Bruce's wife, first when they came into town, because they were all over the world, you know what I mean? And Patty was an amazing lady, really fun to train. And then one night, Bruce was at the Staples Center here in LA when the Lakers used to play there. And I'd show up at the house to train Patty, because, I had really had no 2 words with Bruce. None, really. Like, hey, Bruce. Hey, Tony, how you doing? Bruce like that. And I really hadn't said much to him. And then one day I see Patty in street clothes, and I'm like, oh, crap. I came all this way. And she said, hey, do you mind if you train Bruce today? And I've been training Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics, Stephen Stills from Crosby, Stills and Nash & Young, Tom Petty, Billy Idol, Sean Connery, Submarines don't react well to bullets. That's my Sean Connery. So, oh my God, I'm going to train the boss today. You can see why he's successful, because he's the hardest working, nicest, most authentic human being you've ever met in your life. I mean, he really is. He's nicer than you would imagine him to be. Just really, really thoughtful. And he cared about me as much as me. He was like asking me questions about my life. Like, what? It's pretty impressive. So yeah, that was a hell of a run, man. And the whole time I was going to scene study class. I was going to improv class. I was with Second City LA doing, improvisational stuff. And I gave stand-up comedy a little try. We all know how that turned out, don't we? But it thickens your skin. You know what I mean? You get really comfortable in situations like this.
Yeah.
In front of an audience, in front of a camera. That's I'm more comfortable than I am, talking to my own wife. Well, I'm kidding. No, don't let Shauna see that. But yeah, I mean, it's just the more you do, the better you get. And same thing with fitness. I wasn't really going to aerobics classes anymore, but I was, doing some different kind of cardio stuff, going on runs, going to the track, doing, 100s, 200s, 400s, half-mile runs, really working on that kind of a thing. And doing a lot of plyometrics at that time. And kind of, unbeknownst to me, building the foundation of what was soon to be Power 90 and P90X. Yeah.
So you have this repertoire that keeps building and building and building among celebrities out here, and largely musicians. And you're finding your niche. And at the same time, you're still working with Fox, 20th Century Fox?
No, man. No,
Okay.
I didn't have to do that anymore because, at some point I realized, okay, well, I was training Harlan and I started training these celebrities, and I was training other, doctors and lawyers and people that could afford my rate, which wasn't even that high at that time. And yeah, so that became my sole business. And I would still wait tables occasionally if there was a side thing on a weekend, or if they needed somebody to attend bar, I would still do stuff like that. And, whatever, I just needed income no matter what it was. But I still had roommates, and I was still living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a view of a convalescent home, where my car got broken into every other Thursday. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I lived in the same apartment for 21 and a half years. I just had, and at that time I was doing a ton of personal development. I was reading every book from Deepak Chopra to Andrew Weil to Gary Zukav to Tony Robbins. I was really into the personal development thing because there were certain aspects of my life that I had not, everybody's got their kind of life pie, right? You got your finance slice, you got your relationship slice, you've got your purpose slice, you got all these different slices. And some of them were being fulfilled where other ones were completely void. Like I just couldn't find a relationship that I could stay in for more than 10 minutes. And that had a lot to do with me, and who I was and how I was in those relationships. So I just would go to these seminars on the weekends, down at the airport. Always at the airport. I don't know. I think the gurus are ready to escape in case there's some kind of revolt or something. But yeah, and if you go look at my library in my office, half of the books are personal development books. Just things I needed to learn about myself to be a better human being. And so, in conjunction with doing that and doing the stand-up comedy and doing the scene study and all that. I remember one of the chapters of one of the books. At the end of the chapter, there's always a lesson. Go out, go do this or go do that, or write this down, or how do you feel? How do you feel about that? Like if you died today, if and you had to write your own obituary, what would it say about you? That kind of like, oh well, you're a loser. You haven't accomplished much of anything. You've trained some celebrities, big deal, dead. You know what I mean? And that really affected me. And one of them was, I can't even tell you the book or the author, but go out of your way and do something extraordinary for somebody that you don't like or somebody that you're in conflict with. Like do like just blow their mind. And don't be attached to an outcome because you might not like it. All right, And so I used to play basketball on Saturdays with these attorneys. And they were all buddies, and I was kind of an outsider. And one guy in particular I didn't really get along with very well. And I don't think he liked me either. And I remember him between games complaining about his weight. And I thought, go out of your way and do something. So I figured, what the hell? I'll ask this guy if he wants to work out. Because I had a new slot that opened up at 8 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And who knows? And he said, yeah. And he said, don't you train like Petty and Idol and all these different guys? I didn't even know he knew that, Yeah. And the following Monday, I trained him, and we got along really well because we found out we were a lot alike. What a shock, right? And then a year later, he introduced me to the now CEO of Beachbody. And we did our first project together called Great Body Guaranteed. And it did well. And when it comes to infomercials, not an easy thing to do because there's so many people that want to make money like that. At least back in those days, it's even harder now. And the thing blew up, and then we did Power 90, then we did P90X, and then forget about it, man. You know what I mean?
Rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah.
Yeah. How long do you think you were working out, developing your skill set to bring to that? And how much influence did you take along the way from other people? I mean, obviously, we're always learning from other people. Let me rephrase that. As you started to put this programming together, which really revolutionized fitness in
some respects, a lot of people think so. Yeah, I mean, think about it. I was in my 40s when we shot that. I was 46 when we did P90X. I was 43 when we did Power 90. Think about that. A lot of people have success much younger in life, and mine came much later in life. And I started training when I got out here shortly after. I was between the age of 23 and 43.
Okay.
So, 20 years of just, doing the grind and learning and training folks and seeing what techniques worked. One of the things that I learned early on, it was partly based on who I was as a person. I had a very short attention span, right? So, I was like, I had ADD, ADHD, LMNOP, NYPD Blue. I had them all. I had all the acronyms known to man. You know what I mean? I couldn't even sit still in church. I was just like, geez, I was always fidgeting. You know what I mean? I don't know what it was. Too much sugar. But so, I get bored really easily. So, and then I began to realize that happens to most people. Like the reason why most people don't get fit and stay that way is because of three things. They get bored, they get injured, or they stop seeing results or plateau or whatever you want to call it. And so I knew that as a fact. So I said, okay, what if I just kind of learn about everything? I'll take some martial arts classes. I'll learn about that. You know what I mean? I took some, I did Kempo for about a year.
Okay.
That's the extent of it. I mean, I can throw a punch, but I'll probably, I know like within about 14 seconds, you destroy me. So I knew the basics, and I knew the basics about resistance and hypertrophy types of exercises and weightlifting. I mean, I was at World Gym for a decade, just, spying on world-class bodies, the very best of all time, whatever areas I was lacking in, I thought I want to go investigate that and see how that changes me. What happens to a lot of people, they get in this rut of cardio and resistance, right? The industry is still stuck in those two, as far as I'm concerned. And as a 61-year-old, I know the importance of speed, balance, and range of motion and variety. And that's basically what P90X is. I mean, there's 12 discs and no two are alike, and they're forcing you to work on your weaknesses as much as your strengths. I mean, I want to provide certain types of exercises that are within people's wheelhouse. So you got your cardio junkies and your yoga junkies. It's like, oh yeah, thank God he's got that in there. And then for those people, there's all this resistance, this chest and back and shoulders and arms and back and legs and stuff. So we're forcing those people to do things they're not used to doing. But I know, just from the basic research, from exercise science, that, the more variety you add to your stuff, you're going to avoid the boredom, injuries, and plateaus, right? And then you got your weightlifting guys and your big dudes that are big, right? But they're not really lean. You know what I mean? Their body fat is their subcutaneous body fat is way up there. So they're probably just as vulnerable to heart attack, strokes, and heart disease and hypertension as anybody who doesn't exercise, because they've got, so much extra fat. So we're going to put those guys, make them sweat and throw punches and get down and do some yoga, an hour and a half Hatha flow yoga class. And so that's the reason why we sold, millions and millions of copies and billions of dollars, not billions and billions, but like, I don't know what the number is, 1.4567 billion in sales, because the thing worked, based on what I was doing with those celebrities. You know what I mean? Because their management was eyeballing me like, hey man, this guy's going on tour. This person's going to be in a film. You know what I mean? You can't screw this thing up, And I made it fun. I told jokes, and I was a human instead of being a drill sergeant or somebody's therapist,
Yeah. It's funny because I think before the podcast, we were talking about how your fan base is still largely in the younger category, 25 to 45.
Yeah.
And I have, coworkers when I was fighting in the UFC. I had guys that I bounced with and bartended with all along the time I was still fighting, still trying to just make money and pay rent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them that were younger than me were like, hey, I'm going to do this Beachbody thing, or I'm going to do this P90X thing. And I scoffed at it at first, then I looked it up and I was like, oh no, that's actually perfect for you, because I saw that it was complementary. Right. A lot of the time it would be somebody who just, they can crank out some weight, but they probably can't last long. They've probably never thrown a punch. They've probably for sure never done yoga, and then seeing that it would fill in the gaps.
Right.
That's what leads to injury is the repetitive stress of doing the same thing over and over again and not having the variety and not working on mobility and the things that maybe aren't as sexy for a big guy. And for a lady who's really into yoga, it might not be as sexy to deadlift or do kettlebell swings, but it's still fucking necessary, right? If you want to be a well-rounded person.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And that's exactly what that program was.
So obviously you talked about a lot of the books in your library being so influential on your own personal development. What got you into becoming an author and wanting to share what you share now?
Well, early on when I, became known, I call myself a C- celebrity, give or take, you know what I mean? where, a lot of people will see you and they'll go, yeah, no, anyway, I don't know who that guy is. And there's a lot of that, like Brad Pitt, everybody knows Brad Pitt, right? So I'm one of those guys that's quasi-recognizable. And so what happens is a publisher came to me and said, we'd love you to, write a book for us. And the first book was Bring It, which was not much different than anything else you'd see from a guy like me. You know what I mean? Like, here's some basic tips. Here's how you should train via a book as opposed to DVDs or any other means. And here's what you should eat, which is, not the book that I wanted to write, but that's the first one they let me write. And then, then I wrote my second book, which was really a video book, which was really popular back in the day, where, there's a video and then there's some text and you can get it on your tablet and read it that way. That book was called Crush It. So Bring It, Crush It. And then I thought, then I go, why don't we do one called Annihilate It? I went, or Destroy It, or Beat the Living Crap Out of It. And I went, no, let's get away from the it's. And can I please write the book I want to write? So you got this one right here. You can probably see it, the big picture. Because I am where I am as a result of personal development, and I wanted to write a personal development-like book based on helping people figure out the formula so that exercise and eating right became as natural as waking up in the morning and driving to work. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't have a purpose, plan, or accountability. I mean, those are some of the laws, all right? Like, figure out why you're doing this thing. And if you're doing it for an after picture, or you're doing it because you don't want to look good in a wedding dress, I mean, that's all nice. But the reality here is, you might want to look at other things that have more value for you and for your community and for this planet. You know what I mean? So let's look at the big picture as to who you are as an individual and your effect on other people around you, because that's ultimately who you are. I mean, that is going to be your legacy. And is your legacy going to be somebody who is fat, lazy, angry, and dead before your time? Yeah, no. So I wanted to write a book to say, here are the 11 things that I do on a regular basis that help me just be a better human being in general. And the foundation of that is making, decent food choices and moving 5 to 7 days a week, and maybe taking some supplements that can help the healing process and whatnot. You know what I mean? And so, like, if you look at purpose, my purpose is partly to help other people find theirs, but mine is to just have more energy today and sleep better tonight and be more upbeat and optimistic about who I am and the things and the tasks that I have to get throughout the day. I mean, as soon as we're done, I'm going to do an hour-long cardio And I'm going to be miserable for most of it, but I'm going to feel awesome afterward. You know?
Yeah.
Especially because you guys can see me fidgeting. My left knee here is a little bit funky, but I'm going to wrap it up and, you know, put some balm on there and suck it up and do it. You know what I mean? But, you know, that's just it. I mean, because I exercise because, you know, every time we raise our heart rate, we get our legs and lungs involved, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, something called brain-derived neurotropic factor occurs inside of our temporal lobe. And you even look at a lot of football players that are dealing with CTE or football players working with CTE and guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that have, you know, post-traumatic stress. They're discovering that just oxygenated blood inside of your brain from cardiovascular exercise keeps the devil away, you know, a little bit.
Yeah, and it's curious. I've never even thought of it for that. You know, I've played football since I was 10 years old, finished in Arizona State, and was a professional fighter. So I've taken my lumps for sure. And I've worked with a lot of military guys as well.
Right.
But that is a very unique way of looking at that, you know, brain trauma and how you fix that, because obviously it makes perfect sense. You know, there's a great book by my friend, Dr. Dan Engel, called The Concussion Repair Manual.
Oh, wow.
And he talks a lot about the science behind hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Right.
And the brain.
Which pretty much saved Joe Namath. I mean, Joe Namath, I don't know how many sessions in a row, 125. I mean, the guy just keeps going. I mean, he was going through alcoholism and all kinds of different things. And he could really he was saying that how difficult it was for him to put a sentence together and some of the issues that he was dealing with. And like, you know, I'm curious more. What else did you learn?
Yeah, but I was just going to say that of course, you know, like you do any type of aerobic exercise, you're going to increase BDNF. And that, of course, can help put at bay a lot of the things that we're seeing now with dementia and all the side effects that happen from that, right? Yeah. That's really incredible to look at fitness as a means for cognitive function and and
like, you know, some people think that it's you know, it's all connected.
Yeah,
I learned from John Rady. You know, he's a Harvard professor. He wrote a book called Spark. You know, the effects of physical fitness on the brain and how we look at the world. You know, cognition, memory, attitude, sex drive. I mean, there's so much that goes on. And BDNF.
He's at Harvard?
He's a Harvard guy.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll link to that book in the show notes, and of course your books as well.
Yeah, great. Cool.
So, sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
I don't know. Where was I? Who knows? Maybe I need to do some jumping jacks to remember what the hell I was talking about. Yeah, but Rady's book Spark was really it for me, because I was not a cardio guy. I didn't really like cardio. Like going for a run was like eating shards of glass. You know, I just was not into it. And I'm still not. You know, that's the reason why there's so many machines in here, is because that at least keeps me curious throughout the process of the workout. But I do know who I am as a result of it, and who I am I'm just an ornery guy if I don't, you know. I like pushing and pulling, man. I love moving weight, and I love climbing things and doing, you know, crazy push-ups on med balls and things. I love those kind of, you know, proprioceptive challenges. Things that people half my age can't even physically do. I love to be able to do those kind of things. But again, like I write in the book, and like I talk about, you know, like was in P90X, or a lot of the new workouts I'm doing with Gaiam, you know, the next level workouts are the same thing. They're just exercises that force people to work on everything. And when you do that, and you're working your heart, lungs, legs, and your entire body, and you're working on your flexibility and your balance, because balance is going to go too. It goes because we don't work on it, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, because balance, it requires patience, you know, but patience is a virtue. And if you want to be virtuous, then freaking stand on one leg for a little while in line while you're at the bank, or whatever it takes, you know what I mean? I have to go to yoga class for that, but I have a slack line out in the backyard. And I do a lot of, you know, it's called proprioceptive fitness, which is like just your body adapting to an unstable surface or situation, you know? And so it just keeps you young. I mean, that's the fountain of youth. Because there's a lot of people who are just doing cardio that can't, you know, go, you know, I'm not going to be able to pull myself up over that thing if I need to, or, you know, the escalator goes out at the airport and you got 2 heavy bags. Oops. You know what I mean? You just want to be life ready.
Yeah.
You want to be life ready, and things are going to change on a dime. And so when you train that way, then there aren't obstacles, just become kind of a fun little thing to deal with.
Yeah, you don't want to be a liability in life.
Yeah.
If shit hits the fan in any given situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you're extremely successful. We're here in your home right now. It's absolutely gorgeous. You accomplish everything from maybe not nothing, but very little. And here you are now. What do you do now? You talked about a little bit about starting a supplement company or working with one. Like, where do you go when you've done what you have done? What's important to you these days?
I just like staying busy. You know what I mean? I like being lazy. I'm a fan of doing nothing. And any chance I get, like today, for example, I'm not going to lie to you because what do I care? I didn't have anything scheduled till noon today. So I didn't set the alarm, and I lay there till I didn't want to get up, which was 9:30. 9:30. And I went to bed at midnight because I went, at night, I'm just going to, I woke up at my usual, 6:45 or 7. Ding. And, my knee is jacked up right now. I was super sore because when I shot this thing yesterday, we're down at the beach and I'm climbing, 25-foot ropes and, demonstrating all these exercises, trying to make everything look all pretty. Can you do it again? Can you do it again? Can you do one more take? Can we get this angle? And then here you are on camera. Somehow I managed to perform on camera better than any other time, oddly enough. And I'm just jacked from all that. So I thought, I'm just going to need more downtime. And if you look at a lot of professional athletes, they get their 10 hours in, man, So I thought, all right, that's tonight. And I feel great today, except for my knee, but that's life. But the cool thing is, my relationship with Beachbody has shifted. I'm more of an ambassador for the company now than I was before. Their philosophy about what they want to do is changing. And it's changing in a direction that doesn't involve me as much. You know what I mean? And that's perfectly fine. They get to do what they want to do the way they want to do it. It's an amazing organization. They've done so much for so many people. And look at the millions of lives that they've affected. But the cool thing about Golden Hippo, which is a supplement company, or they're the company that's going to distribute the supplements, they're allowing me to build my own brand for supplements, which I never got to do with Beachbody, which is really amazing. Like, what do you want in there? What do you want to do? What do you want the color to be? What do you want the fonts to be? Like, I'm part of the creative process. Where before I was just a guy that would show up and hit my mark. I had some say, like when it came to P90X and how many workouts and what it should be. They let me do that. They were very generous with how I should do that because I, knew what I was doing. But and same thing with the new workouts with Gaiam, yoga and Fit TV. How long do you want your warm-ups? Whatever. What do you want to call them? Whatever. How long do you want your cool downs? Great. What kind of programs do you want to do? What do you want to call them? I want to call one workout My Three Sons. Fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's really nice to have a lot to say, and they really trust me. And by the time this airs, I think more and more people will have access to the called Next Level, the workouts. We've shot 8 as of this moment. 8 are in the can. 8 are available. If you have Comcast, Cox, or Vios Verizon, you can get them. But not everybody has that way of accessing the workouts. But I can't even say it because I don't even know. But I'm pretty sure by the time this airs, they'll be streaming. They'll be on Spectrum. They'll be on DirecTV. Okay. So everybody will be able to have them. Secondly, I'm working with my friend Chris Fisher at Outfit, and we're going to be slapping my Tony Horton Fitness logo on about 10 pieces of fitness equipment: bench presses, slam balls, med balls, stability balls, jump ropes, a pull-up tower, a really nice, cool, stable pull-up tower that you can have in your home. Because it's kind of time, I'm not going to be a bricks and mortar guy. I'm not going to open up gyms. It's just too much of a pain in the butt, man. I don't have that in me. You know what I mean? It's signing checks and managing and, checking to see
who's just not necessary these days.
Not necessary. You don't need it. You can do the stuff in your home, right? So, and then I'm still doing a lot of, I'm doing some really great work with John Maxwell. He's written over 100 books. He's one of the top personal development coaches in the world. And he and my friend Tracy Morrow and I are working on sort of a health and wellness program for his organization, which is really exciting because they've been focusing on being successful, but a lot of the folks within the organization aren't as fit and healthy and eating as well as they should be. So we're going to do that for them. And also working for Kroger grocery stores to do basically the same thing. They've got 500,000 employees. And what's really amazing is like the grocery chain, as massive as that, is really wanting to look out for not only for their employees, but also their customers. So they're hoping that trickles down to everybody, which is outstanding. You know what I mean? So I'm busy.
Good busy.
Good busy, though. Doing stuff I love.
Well, I really appreciate you carving out a lot of time of your day for us to come in here and interview you.
Come on.
Excellent.
My pleasure, man.
Where can people find you online, and where can people purchase some of your products?
Well, if you go to TonyHortonLife.com, everything's there. It'll tell you what my Instagram is, my Facebook, my Twitter, all those different things. And last but not least, important to let everybody know that, I've got these Paragon vents right here in my home. So you'll be in this garage. It used to be a garage. Now it's an actual gym. But you'll be in this space working out with me, and you'll be at one of the 3 other spots working out with me. And we had our first ever Paragon experience here at my home. 24 people from around the world. A couple from Kuwait showed up. It's a very intimate thing, you know what I mean? So we have a lot of speakers, including myself. We do yoga, we do stuff in the pool, we do obstacle courses, ninja courses, we go trail running, and then we do these fun little outings. We were able to go to the Soho House and see this movie Maru with Jimmy Chin. And so, it's just a really unique experience. And that was March. August is already sold out, but this will probably air after August. So the next one's November.
Okay.
So if you air this before November, there might be a few slots left. And then we're going to do 3 more next year too in 2020.
Very cool.
The Paragon Experience. All of that at TonyHortonLife.com.
Amazing, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, dude.
Hell yeah.